Yo, what's going on, guys? It's me, That One Weeb here, back with part 14 for What If Subaru Was Sukuna's Vessel, aka Curse King Subaru. If you guys have not seen the last couple of parts, or just, haven't seen the series yet, because it has been, a little bit since the last part, I recommend going up to the top upper right-hand corner, where you'll be able to go and find all of the prior parts in the series in the playlist, and you guys can come catch up. Last time, for those of you who've forgotten, Subaru had a pretty wink wink nudge nudge fun kind of night with Rem, since in this version of ReZero, Subaru accepted Rem's feelings, having the same feelings returned back to her, both of them being demons in a sense. Anyway, today we'll be finishing up the second season of ReZero, Arc 4, called The Everlasting Contract. Welcome to part 14, and if you guys do want to show some support for my ReZero content, make sure to go and, support me in the comments section down below. Hit that like button and maybe share with a friend. Anyway, I'll see you guys in the episode. Let's get started, shall we? Alright, before I get started with part 14 from where we last left off of Subaru restarting the loop and having a good night's sleep, or lack thereof, I'd like to correct a mistake that I had made in the last part that someone was kind enough to comment and tell me about, which is actually Garfield being able to smell the scent of the witch. According to the light novel, Garfield is actually never able to smell this scent of the witch, and the only reason his perceptiveness of Subaru changed was because of how Subaru was adapting to the events he knew were going to be happening. So he seemed suspicious to Garfield by gut instinct, or something like that. Alright, now that that's been cleared out of the way, so that we're back on canon timeline now, I can begin part 14 with what Subaru's new plan was and how he's going to confront now Meili, the Beast Tamer, as well as the Bowel Hunter, Elsa, and how he's going to handle those two back at the mansion. The first thing Subaru would do was that evening, after he had gotten out of the situation with Garfield and Ryuzu, Garfield being particularly suspicious of Subaru this time around, is Subaru would, for one, go to check on Otto and then Emillia. Otto having been dragged into this whole mess just like the original timeline, with Subaru and Rem, along with Otto this time, getting dragged to the sanctuary almost immediately after the conflict with the last witch cult, and the Archbishop is in. Now, Otto was just sort of in this limbo. Otto's main purpose, that was from the original Arc 4 ReZero, was typically to be Subaru's emotional support, but in this version, Rem was never eaten by the Archbishop of Gluttony, so Rem is alive. So Subaru doesn't actually really need more emotional support. So unfortunately, Otto fans, if any of you are out there, yeah, I'm not gonna lie to you, Otto gets kind of cucked in this arc, but it's fine. After Subaru would talk with Otto and make sure he was doing okay in the sanctuary, Subaru would head over to Emilia's room just like he did in the last run, still concerned about her this time, wondering what could have changed. Knowing that Emillia had been having troubles with the trials in the last couple of runs, but she shouldn't be having any here. Especially not now to this degree. She was way more visceral and filled with tears than she had been in any of the other runs prior to this. So Subaru would enter and sit and ask what's going on. Emillia would tell Subaru that Puck had disappeared, that she hadn't seen Puck the entire time since they'd gone to the sanctuary. And with everything that happened after we got separated, and the crystals glowing and the crystals, I can't. Emillia would almost break down into tears. Inside of Subaru's consciousness, Sukuna would be disappointed, seeing how much innate potential Emillia has as a spirit arts user, as well as just a combatant in general that she's just wasting. What Sukuna didn't know, and also would not care even if he did, is that Emillia was missing her father figure, which was Puck. Puck being missing from Emilia's life is something that has a huge impact on her in every timeline. Subaru having transferred worlds and having lost both of his parents pretty much forever now is what it seemed, would understand that feeling of mourning and loss that she was experiencing. Subaru would put his hand on Emilia's shoulder and tell her that everything's gonna be okay. Rem would be listening from the other room, would have a pouty face, listening to Subaru comforting Emillia. Rom would laugh at Rem's childish behavior, asking Rem what's wrong, asking if perhaps Lady Emillia is trying to steal her boyfriend. Rem would get all annoyed, jumping up and saying that That's not... Subaru would never... Rem's pouty face had returned. Subaru, after exiting the room, having comforted Emillia enough for her to stop crying, would see Rem making this face. Subaru would sneak up behind Rem and cover both of her eyes with his hands, before moving them away and saying, "What's up?" "Huh? What's up? What's that weird look on your face, Rem?" Rem would just stare into Subaru's eyes, until the point where Ram would not want to interrupt the staring contest, would leave. Suddenly, in the back of Subaru's mind, Sukuna would suddenly say, "Boo!" This would cause Subaru to lose concentration and lose the staring contest. Rem would then nudge up the back of the chair and kiss Subaru on the forehead. Subaru would look to the right and say, "That's a little embarrassing to do right out here, right?" Garfield had been outside and just happened to look through the window, having noticed their shared quick little kiss, would be blushing bright red. As you guys should know, this guy is actually a middle schooler. He's in like 8th grade. That is how old Garfield is, so he's not exactly emotionally mature or anything. Having seen this, Garfield would dive beneath the window like he had peeked on something he shouldn't have, deciding for sure later he was going to interrogate Subaru on how he had landed one of the sisters, since, as you guys know, Garfield has a huge crush on Ram, which is Rem's sister. If some scrawny human wimp like Subaru was able to get that, then what does that mean for him? The dawn of the 3rd day, Subaru would wake up early, deciding to go meet with Ryuzu and Garfield, knowing that they'd be waiting outside to either talk to Emillia or Roswaal. Subaru, walking outside, his hands stuffed in his pockets, would tell the two that he has something to discuss with them. This would be when Subaru would decide to reveal that after he had been teleported inside the sanctuary, he had been able to enter the graveyard and was given the requirements to be able to take the trials himself. Subaru had decided on this loop that he was going to reveal this to see how they'd react or if they'd even help him to try and clear these trials easier. That being his battle back at Arlem Village with the 2 assassins, as well as having to deal with having to keep these villagers here safe while Emillia finishes the trials. Much like the original ReZero timeline, this time being told about Subaru having the ability to take the trials, Garfield would be against Subaru being the one to complete them, saying that it's more for her sake than for his, explaining that if the villagers and those who reside within the sanctuary, the other demi-humans, found out that a full-blown human like Subaru was one to have been the one to free them from the trials, any respect for Roswaal or the Mathers domain, including Emillia as a potential candidate to be the next king of Lagunica, would be completely useless, since Subaru would be the one to take all the credit for that. Subaru thought about this, holding his hand in his chin, while Ryuzu agreed with Garfield, having the 3 of them decide to come up with a plan to make sure that Emillia is the one to finish the trials, with Subaru taking on a different role. Garfield would agree to allow the villagers to leave if Subaru wished to take them back to Roswell's estate, to for one take pressure off of Emillia while taking the trials, so Emillia has less things to worry about, as well as for Subaru to be able to interrogate Frederica. No matter how strong Frederica and Garfield are as demi-humans, Subaru, even without Sukuna's help, is pretty confident that he could force both of them into submission, even in a 2v1 fight. And it's not like this is crazy. Subaru's been able to handle way stronger threats just using cursed energy, and some of the cursed techniques like Black Flash that he's been able to derive from bits and pieces of Sukuna, offhandedly instructing him. Remember, for all of you ReZero fans who have not watched Jujutsu Kaisen and are just going with the flow, or vice versa, someone who has attained a Black Flash combination like Subaru or Itadori Yuji in the original timeline of JJK will be infinitely more connected to cursed energy and understanding its true nature versus someone who could potentially never reach the point of a Black Flash, which is the closest anyone can get to the source of cursed energy. Subaru has reached a Black Flash several times, using it to slay the last Archbishop of Sin, the Archbishop of Sloth, Betelgeuse. Anyway, I digress. Subaru would discuss this plan with Roswaal as well as Garfield and Ryuzu, with Roswaal showing his full support, telling Subaru that he probably doesn't need anyone to come with, but if he'd like to take Rem or Ram with him, he's more than welcome to. Subaru would know that Elsa and Meili will be back at Roswell's estate, so he's not exactly overconfident in his skill. It's not like Subaru wasn't able to do some damage, but without Rem and Ram, he doesn't see himself being able to both protect the villagers he'll be taking with him and be able to fend off potentially 3 threats. The third, of course, potentially being Frederica. However, Subaru would have a plan. Subaru would decide to take Rem with, but also take Otto with him as well, leaving Ram to be Roswell's aide back at the sanctuary. This was something that Subaru was deciding to plan on, mostly because he'd rather have someone else with him, but really did not want Roswell to be left alone to plan any of his own devices. Ram would be more than suitable to stop Roswell from doing anything stupid. At least that's what Subaru thought was the case. Subaru would go to sleep that night, and unknowingly, when he passed out for the night, someone would come in. Someone that he hadn't been expecting. Sukuna would laugh, thinking this is getting even more interesting. Subaru would wake up hearing Sukuna's laughter. Huh? Oh, better watch out. Suddenly, Subaru would feel a grasping around his throat. Garfield? You can see me in the dark, huh? Well, I won't be allowing you to be leaving here tomorrow. Rem and Otto will be far more than enough. Subaru's consciousness would fade as he blacks out, waking up underground and chained to a stone wall. There he would see Garfield and a Ryuzu wearing a white robe. This coincidentally would be the same Ryuzu he had seen Garfield speaking to earlier before they had gone in to discuss this with Roswell. This being Ryuzu Shima. If you guys care about who that is, that's basically the Ryuzu who's working with Garfield to keep the sanctuary locked down. The reason why they hadn't just jumped Subaru when he had originally overheard them and had gone to speak with him in that morning is because Subaru caught off guard was the only way for Garfield to be able to overpower him, which was something that both of them were pretty aware of. Subaru's physical strength and just aura in general was way too powerful to be taken head on, even if Garfield were to transform and make a ruckus, which would then again alert more people to the fight scene. It's not like Garfield was proud of this method, but it was the only thing he could do to keep Subaru quiet. Garfield will tell him that they'll be leaving him down here for a little while. Garfield and Ryuzu Shima leaving and locking the cellar door. Subaru would be chained up, the chains rattling and the wind whistling through the iron bars that would be blocking his escape. Subaru would wait a good 5 minutes to give Garfield and Ryuzu some time to leave, and cursed energy and ripped the chains off the wall. That was ridiculously easy. With a huge burst of stone, the chains would get ripped right off of the wall, Subaru not even having to use much of physical strength, just using a little bit of cursed energy in its raw form to add a little bit of kick to it. Subaru, having escaped the magic blocking chains, would have no issues now getting through the metal bars, bending them like pretzels, and escaping. Oh, that was anticlimactic, Subaru would say. I hope Rem hasn't woken up yet. That would be traumatizing. Subaru would sneak back to bed being undetected, where Rem would be waiting for him sleeping still. Subaru would just go back to bed like nothing had ever happened, like he hadn't been kidnapped at all. And once morning rolled around, Subaru would get up, where he'd see Ram looking rather disgruntled and leaves all in her hair. Go out for a morning run, Ram? Ram would grumble, saying that Subaru's making things difficult for her. Rem would ask what she means, but their conversation get cut off when Garfield walks through the door, turns and sees Subaru sitting at the table eating breakfast with the rest of the crew. What? Garfield couldn't say anything more with Ram and Rem being right there, and Subaru just acting really chill about it. Hey, what's up, man? I guess I must sleepwalk or something, because I sure as hell woke up somewhere today different than usual. Subaru would get up and walk over by Garfield, whispering to his ear, a little bit of black coming onto his skin, his voice deepening to match Sukuna's tone. You'd be rather wise not to try that again. There won't be a second time. We all clear? Subaru would pat Garfield on the shoulder, who would have a single drop of sweat dripping down his face, having swore that he had just seen the devil himself. However, Subaru's threat would instead have an opposite effect. Once everyone had gathered their things and begun to leave, Garfield would instead be enraged that this human had tried to threaten him. Getting past the original fear that cursed energy Subaru had charging around him had caused, Garfield's natural instincts to, say, run away, Garfield had now been enraged, his anger causing him to think irrationally. Subaru would now be outside, gathering everyone from Arlem Village, with Rem and Ram at his side. Ram helping with getting everyone together, Otto helping organize everyone, and people getting ready to leave the sanctuary. Garfield would be standing at the entrance waiting for them. The village would stay back, Naruto telling Rem to wait as he goes forward. Garfield would have a look of pure rage on his face, saying no one will be leaving the sanctuary. Subaru would hold his hand up, waving for him to come at him, telling Garfield that if he's gonna make this happen, then he should give it everything he's got. Garfield would begin powering up, transforming into his ultimate trump card, accessing that tiger full hybrid beast mode, charging at Subaru with a rageful scream. Subaru would smirk, saying, "Sorry, but my girlfriend's standing right over there. It's probably good if I show off a little bit." Subaru would have a huge smile on his face, the sound of flames bursting as cursed energy, a deep crimson red cursed energy, would flow over Subaru's body. Subaru would smirk, saying, "Who do you think's stronger between the two of us? You? Or..." Subaru would step forward, bashing into Garfield with a tackle, elbowing him right in the sternum. "Me. What the hell was that? He hits like a moving carriage." Garfield would barely have any time to recover and get back into the fight before Subaru hit him with a kick to the head, causing him to go flying and slamming through several trees. Rem, Ram, and the Arlem villagers would be terrified of the confrontation, with Subaru turning and telling them not to worry. Garfield would come charging back out, now trying to attack Subaru, but Subaru would be dodging all of his big, easily to read attacks. Subaru's physical strength and speed is completely different in this one if, not just because of his cursed energy or the fact that he has way more fingers than the Yuji we know from the anime of Jujutsu Kaisen, but also because Subaru in this version has a heavenly restriction, just like what Megami thought Itadori and Maki had. The ability that Subaru wasn't born of cursed energy, but instead was born with the ability to have a high physical strength. Subaru's strong body being inherited from his father's side of the family, if you guys know what Subaru's dad's like. Anyway, since Garfield has basically zero defense against curses, Subaru can mess him up. Unlike Emillia or other spirit arts users with spirits who can battle at least against curses, Subaru is basically able to maul Garfield with almost zero defenses. It's important to remember that cursed energy is a new concept added to ReZero's world, and so many people have zero defense or knowledge of the ability so far. That is, of course, except for a few exceptions, as well as those now newly born special and first grade cursed spirits that are coming into the world of ReZero for the first time. But I'll be leaving those for Arc 5 and beyond, with the emergence of cursed spirits becoming a part of the everyday life for those civilians in ReZero. Anyhow, this version of Subaru sees no need to bring Garfield over to his side, instead deciding that simply domesticating him or taking him out of the equation would be sufficient. Ram and Rem would tell Subaru not to go too hard on him, saying that Garfield is still a member of the sanctuary. Ram cheering on Subaru in this sense would only piss Garfield off more, who'd swipe at Subaru. Using his beast-like claws, Subaru would grab the claws with two hands, holding them and pushing Garfield's arm back. Letting go of one of his hands, Subaru would then turn it using a one-hand seal. Subaru would use one of the only cursed techniques he can actually use that he's absorbed from Sukuna, that being Cleave. One of the techniques that Sukuna can use to sever cursed spirits and living matter in half. Subaru would cleave all of the nails on this hand, basically giving this man a pedicure. He'd laugh as Garfield would look at now his shrunken nails, with Subaru saying that this fight is over. Garfield would growl, saying this fight's not nearly close to... Suddenly, Subaru would appear in front of him, jumping up into the air. So fast! Only before Subaru would take two fingers and poke them at his forehead, using a massive amount of cursed energy to shut off his brain. Think about like what the technique Gojo had used against Itadori when he had knocked him out in the first episode of JJK. So Subaru would knock Garfield unconscious, forcing him to revert back to his human form. Garfield would pick him up and carry him over to Rem, asking what he thinks they should do with him. For now at least, Naruto would head back to Ryuzu, deciding to drop off her pet. Subaru told Rem and Ram to take the villagers and start leaving without him, saying he'll catch up. Rem was even more impressed with Subaru being able to take on Garfield, and Ram would be thinking about that they were both pretty much monsters. Now having dropped off Garfield at Roswell's now home base, he would leave, wishing Emillia good luck with her trials, telling her to do her best. Walking off into the distance, Subaru would not notice the clouds coming overhead. The clouds that would soon be having snowflakes dropping over it. No, Subaru would only focus on trying to catch back up with Rem and Ram and make sure everyone else got back safely, as a carpet of white would slowly begin to build over the sanctuary, waiting for Subaru's return. And that's it for part 14 for What If Subaru was Sukuna's vessel. If you guys are looking forward to what's going on next time with the Great Rabbit and finishing off the events with the mansion before going back to Ron Rem and what's going to happen there, then make sure to slap that like button, comment below what you thought of the Garfield versus Subaru fight, and subscribe for more videos like this from me. If you guys have any more Black Clover or ReZero what ifs, make sure to slap them down in the comments below. I have a few part 1s that I'm going to be starting once I finish up this Sukuna Subaru series up to the end of season 2. I'm really excited, like I said in the video, for arc 5, which is after a time skip, because Subaru still has yet to find all of Sukuna's fingers, which is one of Sukuna's goals, as well as see what the effect of curses is having on the world of ReZero. For those of you who don't know, the amount of stress in Jujutsu Kaisen's Earth, where there's not really any wars going on beside like basic humanity issues like famine and hunger and murder and all that, the world of ReZero is pretty fucked up. The world of ReZero had been massacred, half the world being destroyed by the sin of envy, the witch sin of envy. That being, of course, Satella. The amount of negativity, fear, and overall human suffering in this world is intense. This boosting both Sukuna's power, as well as any curses that will now be manifesting out from his fingers that have been sent out into the world. Anyway, that stuff's gonna get really fanfiction-y with some more lore building, but I'm definitely interested in going over to Kairagi in the east and seeing how Subaru, Rem, and the gang would be able to perform there. But that's enough of the future for now. Let's make sure we can just finish up Arc 4 with the Everlasting Contract next. I'll be getting into Part 5 as soon as you guys can hit 300 likes on this video, and I'll see you guys then. Bye.